guest played in the major leagues for 15 seasons. He is currently a motivational speaker and serves as the spokesman for the Christian Sports International, a 501c3 faith-based charity in Pittsburgh. And that's Sid Bream. Sid, John Pielli, and Mike Sanfilippo on WCTC. Thanks for having a couple minutes.
Johnny and Mike.
Sid, first, I'd like to talk about life after baseball and, what you're working on, what you do with the motivational speaking and stuff like that.
Well, I would just say this, John and Mike. Speaking was not something that I set out to be a part of. But I think that the platform that was given to me because of the slide back in 1992 kind of give me a focus, a purpose, an opportunity. And since that time frame, I've been getting in front of people, and it's been rewarding being able to help people. It's been rewarding getting up and trying to give people some direction and guidance. But I will just say that it wasn't my passion. But again, I think the slide was something that allowed it to happen.
Yeah, sometimes things have a way of working themselves out. You look at that moment and, you remember, obviously, that game very, very vividly. It's amazing how,
I still think LaValliere got the tag in on him.
Come on. No, let's not get...
Every once in a while, I'll watch that game on YouTube or something. Sid, this is Mike. Nice to have you on. And I'm watching the replays, first from the Atlanta dugout, just peeking around Otis Nixon here a little bit. Man, looked like your foot was up off above the plate when LaValliere got the tag on you.
You didn't see the shot above. My heel actually came and hit the corner of the base before it popped up.
Okay, well, I'll give you that.
And so if it came and hit the corner of the base before it popped up,
yeah.
I agree it popped up.
It was close. It would not have been reversed. Absolutely. If they had replay today, it would have been reversed.
Actually, that's what I was going to ask you, Sid. Obviously the game's changed with the instant replay. Now, absolutely. I don't think that call as it stood would have been overturned, but I think at least it would have gotten looked at through instant replay.
Oh, no, I agree with you. I agree with you two guys wholeheartedly. And to me, you'll never, ever have an opportunity for the excitement that we had that night again in the game of baseball because of the replay.
I'm a Met fan. I hated the Pirates. I loved it. And when Francisco Cabrera got that hit, wow.
Well, good for you because I hated the Mets.
Well, if you remember the Braves, that's like inherent. You hate the Mets,
Yeah, well, when I played with Pittsburgh, that was the one team. They when they got out onto the field, they just had an air to them. They had a confidence to them back then.
You're talking about the Mets of the mid '80s, yeah? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, join the club. Everybody did at that time.
But it was a fun time back then. But like I said, you'll never ever have another play like that again. Just because of instant replay. You would have come out to jump on somebody. Jim Leland would have thrown the flag, and you'd have had to stand there and watch until the umpires came back and said yes, safe or out. And
tell us a little bit about playing for Jim Leland. I have never heard one player publicly, at least, say one negative thing about that gentleman. And I just saw I don't know if it was a 30 for 30, but ESPN did something on him recently. I watched it. Tell us what it is playing for Jim Leland, and how happy were you for him when he finally did get that World Series win with the Marlins?
You're not going to hear one negative peep out of me. The man, I appreciate him as an individual. I truly appreciate him as a manager. In my opinion, out of my time in Major League Baseball, he was by far the best manager. He was always a couple steps ahead of all the other managers in his thinking, and developed a good friendship with him. But the one thing that I constantly said about Jim Leland is, he would tell you the truth. And whether it was something that you wanted to hear or not, he would tell you the truth. And I respect a man that tells you the truth, and he won't look you in the face and tell you one thing, and then do something else.
Yeah, once again, John Pielli, Mike Sanfilippo here with Sid Bream, former Major League first baseman, currently a motivational speaker, got to play in 2 World Series. The list of managers that you've played for, and I was looking up some stuff before, and it's pretty interesting. you played for Tom Lasorda,
Wow.
Chuck Tanner, Jim Leland, Bobby Cox, and Terry Collins.
Mm-hmm.
Chuck Tanner's no longer with us, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, he passed away a couple of years ago. But you had a chance to play for some very good managers in your time. Was there anything in particular that you remember learning from each one of them, or did in your mind did every one of those managers just kind of have their own way of going about things?
Each manager had their own way of going about things. I mean, Bobby Cox was a manager that basically what he expected out of you was to give it your best every day. I mean, the only thing that got him out of his groove is if he saw you not hustling, he saw you not sporting the uniform that you were supposed to be sporting. Those are the couple things that got Bobby Cox ticked off at you. He allowed us as players to have our own players meetings so that we could hash some things out. He didn't have to micromanage and have his thumb on everything. Tommy Lasorda, he was a television man. Obviously great for the Los Angeles Dodgers back then. And
an ambassador
Terry
for
Collins. Terry Collins was a micromanager back then. I don't know what he's like with the New York Mets. I mean, I appreciate and I really and truly love Terry Collins as an individual, but back in Houston, he was a micromanager and put a lot of pressure on his players. And I hope his time in Japan and now up in with the New York Mets that he's learned some things. But good person, no doubt, a good person, but. Again, Jim Leland, just one of those. I named my third son, his middle name's after Jim Leland. I mean, that's how much I think of Jim Leland.
That's incredible. Now as you back when you first started playing, you ended up coming up in the Dodgers system. You go through the minor leagues. You make your major league debut in 1983. Is there anybody that stands out to you, in regards whether it was a fellow player or a coach that you kind of look to as a mentor as you were developing as a kid?
As a kid, growing up, you mean like in my teenage years?
Yeah. Or even if it was later on, but even as early as you can remember.
Well, I mean, a lot of people have asked me who was my hero growing up. I mean, and I enjoyed the St. Louis Cardinals because my dad enjoyed the St. Louis Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
But in all reality, I mean, the person that I say was my hero was truly my dad. I just love I love watching him and my uncle play sandlot baseball. And my dad, as a senior in high school, I mean, he pitched 46 innings and struck out 98 guys.
Whoa.
He had a chance to go and play with the St. Louis Browns, but my father-in-law or my grandfather wouldn't allow him to play on Sundays. And, that took away a little bit of that, along with, my dad had a bad knee as well. And but my grandfather didn't want him playing on Sundays and kept him from going to play with the St. Louis Browns. But I love just going down as a young boy, a teenage boy, watching my dad play sandlot baseball and watching him pitch and do the things that he did.
Boy, it sounds like faith was very big in your entire family, a very big influence in your family overall, passed down to generations too.
Absolutely. The legacy that my grandparents spread to my parents, to my uncles, my aunts, spread down to us. I mean, I can't thank them enough for what they did. I mean, faith means everything to me. I mean, faith is what gets me going from one day to the next. I mean, knowing, what my Savior did for me. And that's the reason that I can get up in the morning and I go to sleep at night.
That's terrific.
Truthfully, I mean, he gives me peace. and that's my life, truthfully.
And with your motivational speeches, you're passing it down to other younger people, and that's terrific. It really is. I want to ask your opinion on something as you watch the game today, Sid. For the last 4 or 5 seasons, baseball's offense was trending down gradually.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing wasn't falling off the cliff, but was trending down. This year, and I had this discussion with John our last show, baseball's power has just taken off. I mean, we're not just seeing prodigious home runs from Judge and Harper and Stanton and those guys. We're seeing guys hitting bombs all over the place. Now, I listened to an interview. Steve Sachs did an interview on Sirius Radio a few days ago, and he said that he played in a charity game at Yankee Stadium earlier this year, and he's 57 years old now. And he says that he hit a ball up the middle, line drive, and he says, I've never seen a ball jump off my bat in all my years when I was playing. It one-hopped the center field wall. He is thoroughly convinced that there's something going on with the baseballs this year. There's a new manufacturer. Apparently, maybe the balls are wound a little bit tighter. Maybe that was the suspicions back in 1987 when the home runs took off again. And the pitchers have been complaining they can't find the laces as well as they used to. So, do you think that there's something going on? Did baseball do something to try to reverse the trend of I'm not saying they juice the balls, but I don't know. The fact that there's a different manufacturer, do you think baseball, would you put it past them to do something to get the offense back in the game? Remember, chicks dig the long ball.
Well, I mean, and that's the biggest thing right there. I mean, they love offense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love this. I love to watch a great pitched ball game. I didn't love to watch it when I was playing. I mean, I wanted to get some hits off of them, but
yeah.
I loved a great pitched ball game. But money, offense is what sells a lot of stuff. And I'm not going to be able to sit here and say that they've done anything to the baseballs. What I will say is, after so long, I mean, with the speeds and everything that guys are throwing, you start to get used to that.
Yeah.
You start to, when you're seeing 96, 97, 98 miles an hour, you start to be able to understand what you need to do in order to be able to hit those things at that point in time. And coming in at 96, 97, 98 miles an hour as well, you don't have to hit a ball right on the screws in order for it to go over the fence anymore. If you're a little bit off here or there because of the speed of the pitch, you're generating and the ball's generating enough to get it over the fence as well. And these guys that are playing right now, back when we played, we had our strength coach, but at the same time, we didn't have those individuals that were working specifically the muscles that these guys are working today in order to get them strong and to be able to swing the bat the way that they're swinging the bat.
The only reason I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I would just say this. The only thing, I'm not putting it past that they wound the balls tighter a little bit, but I also think that there's some adjustments that are going on in the game of baseball. They're starting to get used to those speeds, and at the same time, that the specific strength training that they're doing with these guys, I mean, it's just allow quicker and quicker bats.
It just seemed like the reason why I ask you, and I'm going to turn it back to John in a second. It just seemed like the home runs, the amount the players are hitting them, and how far they're going. The one that Judge hit in Seattle the other night was, it broke the StatCast. It just seems like it happened all at once, like an explosion of home runs all at once. All right, go ahead, John.
Hey, Sid, let me ask you.
Thanks again.
Now, when you
not a problem.
When you played in the major leagues, and when you played professional ball, and even before, how much weight training would you say that you did over the course of your workout regimen?
Well, when I first started, I mean, good grief, weight training was almost taboo.
Yeah.
That was something that, good grief, they didn't want you to do. Pitchers especially. I mean, they didn't want pitchers picking up a weight. And little by little, I mean, as things have, the research and everything else is going into it. I mean, now, weight training is everything. I mean, the plyometrics, the quickness, the weights in order to produce power. And, I work with a strength trainer. I work with the strength trainers that I played on the teams with, and they gave me certain things, but it wasn't like specific stuff like I just told you about relating to the different muscles, for swinging the bat. It was just a generic weight training and get your cardio the way it was supposed to be, and so on and so forth. But these guys today, I mean, man, their bodies are ripped, ready to go for swinging the baseball bat.
No, so true. Once again, Sid Bream joining the program with John Pielli and Mike Sanfilippo. I just look at there's so many different changes in the game from when you played, from the weight training and obviously the technological advantages, the things that are more at our fingertips now. If there was one thing
the shifts, don't forget the shifts.
You'd look at the game and say the biggest difference between the game now and the game that you played, what would it be?
Well, I think, I mean, again, I don't think the pitching's that much better, truthfully. I've been watching quite a few ball games, and I see individuals get better pitchers on an 0-2, 1-2 count than I do, on a 3-2 count. And guys are dropping curveballs 3-2 and throwing fastballs over the middle of the plate, 0-2, 1-2. And, so I don't think the pitching is any better. If I would have to just say anything, I mean, at this point in time, it just had to be the strength of the ball players. I mean, with their specific weight training and so on and so forth, as I've told you already. I mean, I don't know if you guys ever had seen the documentary Fastball. And if you haven't, I mean, it might open your eyes a little bit. I've been to ballparks and I've watched guys pitch, and I'm sitting there thinking, he's not really throwing any harder than what we used to face. And up on the board, it's showing 96, 97, 98 miles an hour, and I'm thinking that just doesn't seem right. But several years ago, two guys here from Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh put out a documentary called Fastball. I mean, and now, just to try to shorten this up a little bit, now they take the radar right out of the pitcher's hand. Back when I was playing, they used to take the radar midway between home and the pitcher. So that, I mean, out of a pitcher's hand, I mean, that's where it's fastest, just like a gun. I mean, out of the muzzle is when the gun's the fastest or the bullet's the fastest. So basically what I want to share with you, I mean, is these guys came up and challenged the Geraldus Chapman, I think, is throwing 105 miles an hour. That's the fastest pitch as such. When they did their formulas and so on and so forth with Nolan Ryan, Bob Feller, and so on and so forth, they actually came to the place of Nolan Ryan threw pitches 108 miles an hour. Bob Feller threw 106 miles an hour. I mean, only because, I mean, of where they were getting their radar taken.
Yeah,
from.
where they're getting the radar off of where they're releasing it.
Yeah. And just let me just share this with you as well. Mike Stanton, he pitched up in New York with the Yankees.
Yeah, of course.
And he used to throw fastballs. He used to throw fastballs up there at 94 miles an hour. I have a video at home here when we played in the World Series. He threw a fastball, and it registered on the screen. I mean, they showed it on the camera, 85 miles per hour.
Wow.
So I mean, how could a guy that pitched for Mike Stanton with the Atlanta Braves, how could he go from 85 to 94 in that time frame? I mean, as far as going from the Braves to the Yankees, except the fact that they started taking it out of the hand instead of midway between, the pitcher's mound and home plate.
Now that's completely fascinating. I'm actually going to take a look at that documentary.
Cool, yeah.
Sid, I really appreciate you having the time. It was great getting a chance to chat with you, and hopefully we could do it again soon. Thanks a lot.
Like I said, guys, I mean, I apologize to you guys.
Nothing to apologize for, Sid. Sid, nothing to apologize. It was great having you on. I really mean that.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff there, Sid. Thank you again.
Give me another shout back, and I'd love to come on with you again, okay?
All right, I tell you what, at the Even a World Series, we'll get your take. What's going on?
That sounds like a winner to me. I appreciate it. Looking forward to it.
All right, have a great one again, and thank you very much for coming on, Sid.
See you now, guys. Bye-bye.
Right.
And once again, it was Sid Bream joining us, 15 years in the major leagues. We'll take a quick break and be right back after this. Game over on WCTC.